come in on October 29th and 30th. Our theme of the conference this year is the Battle Royal, which is sort of what happens when all the walls come down, the barriers between businesses come down, and everybody sort of fights it out. And that's sort of our interpretation of what's happening in games as games go digital. So we have an interesting panel here. To my right is Anil Dharni. He's the COO of GREE International. Next to him is Clive, Downie. He's the CEO of DeNA West. And at the end is Setton, the CTO and co-founder of Tango. They're all interesting game companies and platform companies as well. And just to sort of refresh you on games lately, we've seen some very big changes in the last year. I have the most fun covering this industry because every year, every day, something is different. Things that I never thought would happen have happened. The head of the Xbox business is now the CEO of Zynga. We have 2 new consoles coming. There's no CEO at Electronic Arts right now. Clash of Clans maker Supercell raised $130 million at an $800 million valuation. And the Japanese maker of Puzzle and Dragons is valued today at $15 billion. So that's a lot. All of that has happened in the last year. And to make some sense of it, or to interpret it somehow, throw it open to our panel here. So how do you interpret all of this going on, and what do you think is going to happen next?
Well, so this is my 3rd mobile gaming company. So it started StoreMate, which is an independent mobile company today. It started from Zero, which was acquired by GREE. So what I've seen since 2009 is this space changes every 3 months. Literally every quarter it changes, and what's great about it is it still does the same. So even though you would expect that the market is evolving to some extent, but the rate and the pace at which the platforms change, the players change, continues to keep up. And it's very rare to find games out there in the top grossing ranks that have stayed there for a long time. That was one of our goals when we started Fund Zero, is how do we build these franchises that can last for 2 years, 5 years. So one of our games has been there for about 2 years now. Another game is 1.5 years in the top grossing charts. And our goal is to continue with those franchises. But it's very hard to predict what's next. It all depends on how good your team is that can react to the changing forces.
You know, I think, so firstly, hello. I think that there's maybe 2 or 3 takeaways that I have from, observing the current environment that you explained, Dean. The first one is, it's still an environment that's just growing exponentially. And that's driven by mobile. I know you mentioned 2 new consoles coming, but mobile is really a fixation for us, and it's a fixation for a growing number of developers and also business leaders in other categories. And so there's an opportunity from a business standpoint because of that immense scale that's happening, because of mobile's ubiquity that is not a myth, it's happening. We all have these wonderful devices that make our lives better. And what I'm also seeing, therefore, is an opportunity for consumers, because more and more people are coming in and innovating in wonderful ways in terms of just content, and it's a content-led business. It always will be. So I see opportunity as just the key word right now. Still a growing business, still a growing scale, just because of its vast opportunity. So we're really excited to be in it.
We're excited too. I think it's amazing how nascent the space is too. When you think about it, it's only been 5 years that there's been an app store, and I think in-app purchase, 3 years old, and so everything is being figured out. From the paradigms of gestures, that are going to be successful, from swiping or tilting the phones, to the genres, and I think the game is still wide open for any size developers, and you see these hits right from one day to the next, and the large companies also figuring out how to tackle this opportunity. I think that it's unbelievable the pace at which things are changing. But I think that window is actually shortening now. And I think that things are slowly coming into place, from distribution to who are going to be the winners. And I think this is really the time to seize the opportunity and establish yourself in this market.
So at any given time now, if you look at App Annie and the store stats for Google Play revenues, I sort of slapped my head a few months ago when I saw in the top 10 games on a worldwide basis, there were 5 or so Kakao games. And I said, what is Kakao? And at the moment, it has more than 100 million users. It's a mobile messaging network in Korea. And these games that are available only in Korea, I guess they're spreading to some territories, but they're dominating the Google Play Store on a worldwide basis. So that's very powerful. And it seems crazy, but if you have a game and you put it out on a mobile messaging network and it spreads really fast, well, it sort of makes sense that that game is going to shoot to the top. So that's I guess why Tango is actually on this map. Tell us more about the direction that's happening there.
So we're one of the leading messaging platforms. We have 130 million members. We grow 250,000 people every day, and most of our audience is in North America and Western Europe. And I think inspired by what we've seen from platforms like Kakao online in Japan, we've actually opened up a platform. And so if you're a game developer today, you can integrate with Tango and be discovered. This gives you access to 130 million members. And we make available to the game developers not only our backend, but also our messaging infrastructure, so that they really can build a social layer that makes their games viral and engaging. And I think that we're helping to redefine the space in the same way that Facebook redefined web gaming or gaming on the desktop. I think we're going to see the same type of revolution on mobile, and we're pretty excited to be part of that. We announced our platform a month ago and are working right now with about 25 game developers. The first games launched about 4 weeks ago and are just raking in downloads right now. And so I think it's quite exciting to see the emergence of such a platform now in the West.
So everybody here has a platform sitting on top of somebody else's platform, like on top of Google or Apple. So we have the potential for interesting game platforms sitting on top of other platforms. And what's sort of the way this can be successful?
I think the way that we think about it is, firstly, from an evolutionary standpoint, we have a platform which is successful, but we know it can be far more successful. It's like a 1.0. We know we need to get it to a 2.0 for the Western consumer, and the consumer is the magic word, because you have to think about what is it that consumers, in terms of their lifestyle or in terms of their habits, still need in the realm of gaming that a platform can serve. What's the value proposition that a platform can do when it's wrapped around really excellent content that can just elevate people's experience in that gaming content to another level, be it from a community standpoint, a social standpoint, something else that we haven't invented yet standpoint. That's what we think about. We think that there's still an opportunity to create a gaming platform that makes games better. I think that's how I would summarize it. And then you could be a viable platform on a platform.
And Anil, I guess, how would things work if everybody sort of took their 30% cut?
And it's a tough business then.
Mm-hmm.
So our point of view, at least for the Western market, is platform is mostly centered around developers and developers' needs, which is things like the backend infrastructure that actually Eric from Tango is talking about. So do you have messaging in it? Do you have chat in it? Do you have push notifications? The things that developers, the creative minds, don't want to really deal with. That's the mobile stack that we provide to publishers. And whether we take a cut or not, that's still an unknown. And we are basically, so one of our games we just recently published, Knights and Dragons, it's a game developed by a studio in Ayugo. We are not taking a 30% cut that typically platforms have tried to take. Instead, we are providing them with all the know-how and the knowledge that we have and providing them the whole mobile stack that they really don't want to invest building. And that's the value that we think really will define what a mobile platform or a mobile stack on top of a creative game looks like.
So the new consoles are coming and developers have interesting choices now. Why should they think about, say, mobile as their primary platform, or even things like Google Glass, the wearables?
Well, I'll answer that question. Firstly, if you just think about the sheer amount of time that consumers globally are expending on mobile, if you think about it in the West, I'd estimate that every day, a conservative estimate is that there's way over 200 billion minutes expended by human beings on mobile devices. And around 30 to 40% of those minutes are expended on games. And so the opportunity, and I come back to that word, the opportunity that exists for smart people with an idea to create a game relatively easily with not much friction, and then launch that to go after that available time that's, by the way, expanding daily as new hardware comes into the market at a rate that far outpaces console. That's really what's at the base of why mobile is, for us, the recommended place to be for developers, rather than running after making epic HD experiences against studios that spend $200 million.
Out of 6 billion mobile devices, the thing that's most surprising to me is that only 1 billion of those are smartphones today. So actually that transition that, we just live in real Silicon Valley here, that's pretty commonplace. It's just starting. And I think that, to parallel what Clive's saying, the opportunity is humongous. And I think that there's nothing that really compares to the opportunity on mobile.
How does this growth sort of come home to the U.S.? We've heard a lot about how crazy the gamers are in places like Korea and Japan. How do we sort of get the same behavior out here?
Well, I'd say we have our consumers in our games. They spend 55 minutes a day in our games, on average, in the West, and that's behaviour that's aligned with people having fun. So we see Western consumers enjoying games on mobile. I think what you're alluding to, Dean, is maybe the monetization, if you like, is not as strong as it may be in Japan or Korea or other areas in Asia. And I think you can work at that, but you can't work at that first and foremost. You have to work at providing fun, and you have to work at providing meaningful engagement to people. Otherwise, they won't come back, and then you never get the money. So we don't really focus on the money as something that comes as a byproduct of us giving people fun engagement. But in summary, I'd say that I think we're kind of getting close to the level of performance that has been seen and communicated about the Asian market, which, remember, is a far more mature mobile gaming market than we have. So we're playing catch up, but I think we'll get there, and we're seeing signs of getting there.
Yeah, I think for us, we have a very unique perspective because as Fonzia, we were very much focused on the US market. And what we've been able to do is combine the game mechanics that work in the Western market with the game mechanics that now we've learned from what's happening in Japan through the acquisition of GREE. And it really works. And what's fascinating is when the two product teams from the US and Japan meet, and we look at our KPIs, our key metrics on how the game's doing in terms of retention, in terms of engagement, in terms of monetization, it's startling to see how well our US studio key metrics are looking. The only thing where there's a difference is in the percent paying today. So where Japan is, as Clive indicated, it's a very digital market. You see 10 to 15% of the players paying on a monthly basis. That's the only place where we see a major difference between the US and Japan. Actually, in terms of average revenue per paying user, it's much higher in the US and the Western markets for us. And the reason is primarily because of tablet, because of iPad. That's something that really didn't take off in Japan until the iPad mini came out. And in the US and Western market, that's done very well.
one of the perspectives that I can offer is we've been very surprised that actually there are a number of Asian developers that are approaching us to actually be part of this platform effort and get access to consumers in the US and in Europe. And I think everybody wants to be present in this market. It's well known that it is a market where there's a huge monetization opportunity and where people have the ability to pay and command a launch premium. So I definitely think that there's good days ahead of us actually here in the US and in Western Europe.